anywhere you have an x squared. Can someone tell me for this first problem what the answer is? Okay, 6 is one of the answers. There is another answer. What? -6. All right. Because if you think about plugging these numbers back in, everybody knew pretty quick 6 squared equals 36, right? So you knew that number. But -6 squared is -6 times -6, which also equals 36. Okay? So a lot of these questions are going to have two answers. Okay? So, let me think for a second. We don't have to do radicals. Okay, I need you guys to get a calculator real quick for the rest of this next one.
I know Miss Ball can get him a Bugatti.
I'm not sure there.
If they can get a Tesla, then they can get a Bugatti.
I don't think you understand how much more Bugatti is than a Tesla. A
So
Tesla's
a Bugatti costs more than a Tesla.
Yeah, by like a couple million.
Okay. All right. Let's look at example 2.
Wait. Back to number 1. So the answer is x equals 6. X equals 10.
Yes, it has two answers.
Oh.
There's two answers, yeah.
I thought you meant it was in put together.
No. No. Because if we plugged in a 0, we'd get 0 minus 18, which would not equal 0. So, let's look at this next problem and think about how we could solve this problem. This one, nobody is going to be able to find the answer off at the top of their head for this one. We knew this one because there's no way you'll get the decimal right.
Oh, decimal.
Yeah. There's no way you'll get the decimal right. I don't think so. It should be. It should be greater than 3. No, greater than 4. 4.5 won't work. So, but. Yeah, 4.5 squared would give you 20.525. So it's less than that. It's closer. Okay. Needs to be less than 2.5. Alright, you guys can see how we're going to have a hard time guessing this, right? Okay. Tell me what you got. 4.26. Okay. How'd you get it? What? Because I think the way that you probably got that number is what we need to know.
Yeah, I put second and then x squared.
Okay? Alright, so this is what we're going to have to do for this problem. It's exactly what we want to do. So, first thing I'm going to do is I am solving for the x right here. So the first thing I would do is I will add 18. Guys, quiet and pay attention. I will add 18 to both sides, which will give me x squared equals 18. And then Aiden said that he hit second and the x squared, which brings up this symbol right here. What does that symbol mean? Square root. A square root undoes a square. Okay? So if we have x squared and we want to get rid of the square, we are going to square root. And if you do the square root on the one side, you must do the square root on the other side. So x will equal, if we type in square root of 18, we get 4.242640687. For me, I would like for your answers to be correct to 3 decimal places, so you can round it to 3 decimal places. So we'll have 4.243. Now, if you plug that back in, because I rounded it off, it's not going to quite give you the right answer. If you use the whole entire decimal, it should give you the right answer. Now, that's not my only answer.
Negative.
A negative will also work. So you can do like we did on the last problem and list them as 2 separate answers. Or, here's another option. If you have a positive and negative of the same number, you can just put plus or minus 4.243 there. So that's actually 2 answers. It's one with a positive, one with a negative. So let's make ourselves a note right here. Whenever we take the square root of both sides, essentially that's what we were doing over here. It was just a really easy square root. The square root of 36 is 6, right? When we take the square root of both sides, we need to have a positive and negative that goes with our answer. So when you square root both sides, put a plus or minus with the answer. Okay, so let's look at ones that are a little bit more complicated.
What's an arrow doing there?
What?
What's an arrow doing there?
It's just a mark that was made. Okay. Alright, so for number 3. We got 3x squared minus 5 equals negative 2. So we're going to solve this just like we would solve a regular equation. But to get rid of a square, we're going to have to square root. It's just like we're adding one more tool to our toolbox for equation solving. Okay? So if I want to solve that for this x right here, I want to try to get that x by itself. What should I do first? Add 5 to both sides. Okay, so on this left side, I just have 3x squared. And over here on the right side, I got a 3. Okay, what should I do next? Divide by 3. Which is just 1. Okay, yes? If you shortcut or like guess and check, you may. Not all of them will be quite that easy, but yeah. All right, so I've got x squared. How do I get rid of a square? I square root. This check mark thingy is called a square root. Coach Wood was making fun of some of his kids the other day because they call it the check mark thingy. They don't know that it is a square root, but that is a square root. What is the square root of 1? 1. And what do I need with this answer? Plus or minus, because I took the square root of both sides, so I got to put that plus or minus there. Who is leaving today? Goodness. Hello? Yes. Okay. They need you in the office with whatever paper needs to be signed.
Yep.
Okay, I know. It hasn't been you in a little while, Caitlin. You've been on a good streak here lately. Shouldn't jinx you. My dad would say that I just put that out there in the universe. Okay. All right, let's look at 4. 4 is a little bit of a different question. All right, 4 is a little bit of a different question. Okay? All right. All right. Here's the problem. Isabella says to distribute the exponent. All right. Shh. Okay. If I do that, it is not x squared minus 16 or plus 16. Because this would be x minus 4. Don't write this down. This is going to be a dead end. X minus 4 times x minus 4, which gives me x squared, minus 4x minus 4x, which gives me a minus 8x, plus 16, equals 81. So, this is going to make things more difficult because now you've got an x squared and an x. Those are not like terms. You cannot put them together. So, we're going to learn how to do some problems that look like that, but we definitely don't know how to do that yet. So, it's not going to be the best way to approach this problem. And once I teach you one more thing, you might actually be able to do it this way, but it still would be easier just to do it the way we're going to do it. So, it's a good thought, but it's not going to work. Oh, I mean for that to be highlighter, but it'll work. So, what we want to do is just solve this like an equation. We're trying to get this x by itself. When we're solving an equation, we try to get rid of whatever is furthest away from our variable, right? What is furthest away from our variable here on this side? The exponent. So we've got to get rid of the exponent first this time. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. And so when I take the square root of that square, it just cancels it out, and I've just got x minus 4. What's the square root of 81? 9. But I just took the square root of both sides. So what do I have to put with that 9? Plus or minus 9. Now, here is what this means. This means you really have two equations that you're dealing with here. You've got x minus 4 equals positive 9, and you also have x minus 4 equals negative 9. So once you have a plus or minus in the problem, you need to break it apart. It's going to be two separate answers. So if I solve this one, only thing I have to do is add a 4. So x would equal 13. If I solve this one, all I have to do is add a 4. I'll get x equals negative 5. So we've got two answers for this, but it's not just a plus or minus of the same number. X equals 13 and x equals negative 5. On the other problems, we didn't have to worry about this two equation thing because the last step was square rooting. So we just had to put the plus or minus there. If you think about it, you're really doing the same thing because this means x equals positive 1 and x equals negative 1. It's just it's not really an equation to solve. Okay, everybody okay with that? All right, let's do some even more difficult ones. 13 and negative 5, yep. And you can always check them by plugging them back in. So they should work like negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9. Negative 9 squared is 81. Over here, 13 minus 4 is 9. 9 squared is 81. So both of those will work. All right. Oh. You can if you would like. I'm going to leave it, but you can. All right, what have I got to get rid of first? You're not going to square root first on this one. You need to get rid of the 40 first. So you're going to subtract 40, which will give you negative 25 equals, and then the 40 is gone, but the negative right there is not. Yeah, be really careful because you will lose it. All right, so that negative is also a problem. It's like having a negative 1 right there. So before I can deal with this, I cannot distribute because of the square right there. So it would be fine to distribute if I didn't have a square right there, but you cannot distribute if you have a square because you have to do exponents before you can multiply. So we cannot distribute. But this is negative 1 times that expression right there. So I could just divide by that negative 1. So 25 will equal positive 2x plus 7 squared. We are right here. Yep, here is where we are going to square root. Okay, what is the square root of 25? 5. What do I need to put with that? Plus or minus. And then over here, we're just going to have 2x plus 7. As soon as you get a plus or minus, split it up. Okay, so we've got 5 equals 2x plus 7. We also have negative 5 equals 2x plus 7. And so at this point, it usually should be a pretty straightforward equation to solve. You will subtract 7 here, subtract 7 here. You get negative 2 equals 2x. We could divide by 2 here, and so negative 1 equals x. All right, and then over here, we could subtract 7, negative 12 will equal 2x. Divide by 2, negative 6 will equal x. So these will be our two answers. So to plug it back in, and in fact, if you want, you could just use, I'm not going to let you use your calculator. No, I have to let you use your calculator because some of these are not going to be whole number answers. So if you're using your calculator, we would just take 40 minus 2 times, and then if I'm checking negative 1, I'll do negative 1 plus 7, close that parentheses, square it, and I get 15, which is what it's supposed to be equal to. And then if I do the same thing, 40 minus 2 times, the other one was negative 6 plus 7 squared, I would get 15. So both of those work. And that problem itself you should be able to do without a calculator. But there will be some problems where you don't get whole number answers, so I will let you use the calculator on some of these. Or, well, probably all of them. There. All right, try number 6 on your own. Which I wanted you to. So, if we solve this, what's the first thing that we should do? add that 7. So I've got 2 times x plus 3 squared equals 12. What should I do next? Divide by 2. So I've got x plus 3 squared is going to equal 6. Then I will square root both sides. On that left side, I'll just get x plus 3. Alright, here's your problem. Can you take the square root of 6? Not without a calculator, right? So the other ones we had like nice answers where we could do without a calculator. For this one, you cannot do it without a calculator. So you got a couple options on how to deal with it. One thing you can do is for right now, you can just leave it plus or minus square root of 6. Right? Or your other option is to go ahead and to type it into the calculator. But I probably wouldn't round it yet. So I like doing it this way instead. So once I get the plus or minus, I like leaving it a square root of 6 for right now. So I've got x plus 3 equals positive square root of 6. And I also have x plus 3 equals negative square root of 6. So to solve these, I would just need to subtract 3 from both sides. I prefer to leave it as square root of 6. In my calculator, I can just do square root of 6 minus 3. Now, if you've got some of the older calculators that put parentheses up, like I have up here, make sure you close that parentheses before you do the minus 3. If you got the newer calculators where it does the square root symbol, make sure you hit the over key so that that minus 3 is not underneath the square root, okay, because it should not be. And so that is going to give me negative 0.551. And then for the other one, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. This time, I'm going to do negative square root, oops, that's not what I'm going to do. Hold on. Negative square root of 6. Make sure you close that parentheses or go over so that the negatives, the minus 3 is not in the square root. Do minus 3. Yep, negative 5.449. I was taking your word on that round. That is rounded correctly because you would cut it off right here. That's a 4. So, that would be rounded correctly. So these would be your 2 answers. So on a lot of the questions you see, you will get whole number answers. On some of these, you will not. And you can just use your calculator to get that decimal for you. Okay, questions? It is basically like solving equations was already. We just got that one extra tool where we can take the square root of both sides to get rid of a square. Okay? All right.